talk to him for a minute and ask his experiences. But the basic interview is you. And, that would be interesting. Maybe he was going to give an interview privately as a hidden child. What it was like for him. A hidden child.
They have a lot of hidden children here.
We just
You know,
this morning.
he didn't know. A neighbor of his,
Well, you see what time
he was with him in.
how much time do you need to do hers and record it?
No, I wasn't imposing it. I just meant maybe he should call
you
the
mean as
work.
Oh, I thought you meant today would be.
No.
Oh, you meant as a
Yeah.
separate interview.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
certainly if there's time, I'll ask you a few questions.
Yeah.
And
Call
we
them.
did,
A couple weeks ago, we did two hidden children
From Belgium?
What was their name?
Well, there was Bonbonne and Maya Schwartz. They're both from Belgium.
Maybe you should mention both names, Slushnas Rebnik.
Schlussness?
Maybe I will find someone,
Okay.
Leslie?
because Slushnas is my maiden name. Okay.
Today is April 24th, 1995. We're speaking with Maria Schlussness-Schrebnik. My name is Leslie Fass. We're in New City, New York. We're speaking in English.
Mrs. Shrednick, could you give me your full name, please?
My name is Marie Slushnas Rebnik. Slushna is my maiden name.
Could you spell Schlussness, please?
Sluszna.
And could you please spell Shrednick?
Srebnik.
When were you born?
I was born May the 18th, 11.
1911.
Mm-hmm.
And where were you born?
I was born in Siedlce. That's a province of Lublin,
In what country?
Poland.
And what were your parents' names? Your father's name?
My father's name was Włodko Sluszny, and my mother's was Chaya Leah Laufman Sluszny.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I had 3 brothers. The older one was Herschel Sluszny, Srulek Sluszny, Abramek Sluszny.
And how much older were they than you?
I think we were 3 years apart.
Were you all living at home together?
Oh yes. And then the older one, Herschel, when he finished university in Poland, it was very hard because anti-Semitism was growing and growing in Poland. So he went to France, Paris, and he went to the university in France as to learn agriculture. He wants to go to Israel. So, yeah.
And what happened to him?
To him, he was a high officer when he finished university, and when the war broke out, and he was a French citizen, so the government called him to arms. He was a high officer, and he fought in Norway. And then when the Germans approached Norway, because he lost a lot of soldiers, so he saved where we had and retreated back home to France. And after he was home, maybe a few months later, he took his bicycle to take a tour, and the Germans locked up the streets, not in and not out. And they arrested everyone, a kind, because was one German killed with a knife. And that was an Italian Jap, not a French Jap. And they knew it very well, but they took otage. And they sent everybody to the Drancy camp. Drancy camp was the butcher of Lyon, was the chief of the Drancy camp. And Drancy camp, they sorted out who is who. Finally, they find out that my brother is a Jew. Looking on his face, they wouldn't say it. And they sent them to Warsaw Ghetto. And in Warsaw Ghetto, I don't know what's happened.
And your other siblings?
And the other one, the younger one from the older one, Srulek, he was officer in the Polish army. And the ninth pac, dziewiąty pac ciężkiej piechoty. That's the ninth pac, the artillery. Yes, now and I don't know what's happened to him. And the younger one got married in Siedlce, and he moved to Brześć-Litowski, Brześć nad Bugiem, Brisk. And he was in business. He had a haberdashery store. And when the Russians came in, they offered passports, Russian passports, to become a Russian citizen. And they all could go to Russia, because they told them, we have an understanding with the Germans, we must leave this part of the country and the Germans will come in. So my brother didn't want a Russian passport because he remembered what's happened when there was the Bolsheviks in Poland. And I don't know what's happened to him. He had a wife, he had a son, and I guess he had a daughter too, but I don't know.
Could you tell me what your father did for a living?
My father, I don't know how you call it in English, but he was a podrajczyk. Podrajczyk means he furnished everything to the government, to the Polish government, from A to Z, to the military and to the others. And when the Germans came in, they knew to who to address themselves. They went and they want my father should do the same thing, to furnish them with all the necessary things they need. And my father refused. He didn't want to do it. So they warned them, if he will not listen to them, they will arrest the children and his wife. So the rabbi of the city went to him and begged them, and he should do what the Germans want. So the first thing they ordered a wagon of petrol. And when the wagon was delivered, they said, my father sabotaged the petrol with water. And they arrested my father and threw him in jail. And he was 3 months in jail, and when he came out, he died. But you see, the second time we were beaten by the Germans twice. And my father was only 42 years old, man. And he was a very charitable man. He gave everybody help in the city, from the rabbi to the schools, and was no difference to the Christians or to the Jews. He was a very patriot, and he was a very good Jew too, because Dr. Herzl was his best friend. They went to Palestine at the time together, Dr. Herzl. Theodor Herzl, yeah, because in my father's library, the study was his office in the library. He had a big portrait of Dr. Herzl, and then he had another portrait which puzzles me, I don't know what it is, of Spinoza. A very big portrait of Spinoza. Looks like my father was not a fanatic. He was a religious Jew. He helped the shul, he supported the poor people in the city, he helped build the Jewish hospital, and if somebody had a daughter which was getting old, he needed a dowry, they came to my father. Not only he gave the dowry, he made a wedding too. He was a very philanthropic man.
So would you say you came from a comfortable home?
Very comfortable home, a very aristocratic Jewish home. I had a governess, and the boys had a teacher in the home after school. But they all went to public school.
Not Jewish school.
Yes.
There was a Jewish day school?
Yeah, it was a Jewish, yeah, well, the teacher was, I think, Tuchklapper, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the teacher, you know. And they had a teacher as a companion to help them with homework, to go for a promenade, you know, to go to the park, to play sports. The boys had a special room and with all kind of sports thing.
Could you describe your home that you grew up in?
Was by about 10, 15, not 10, but 15 or more rooms, you know. And Friday, my father will always invite Jewish soldiers to the table. It was Saturday, you know. He was a very good man. And when the first soldiers will represent themselves, the recruits, my father would offer dinner for them, could be 200 or 300. They will take off the doors from every apartment and make tables for them to put in the court and in the garden. It was a beautiful home, a beautiful thing. And we had a special lady to cook kosher. It was a kosher home. And my governess was a Christian. And we had help for the house. It was a very beautiful home, aristocratic Jewish home.
Was it in the main city? In the country?
Yes, we lived on the ulica Sienkiewicza 4. That's ulica Sienkiewicza. Before, they used to call it Ogrodowa, the Garden Street. And they changed to Sienkiewicza. Sienkiewicz was a poet and a writer.
What did your mother do?
My mother finished Russian university, so all her sisters, they were educated, but they didn't do anything. Because a woman should be only educated but not work. That was the time in Poland.
You know what she studied?
No, I don't know. I know my grandmother studied to be a accoucheuse. You know,
Shoes?
yeah, accoucheuse is a lady delivers babies.
Midwife.
A midwife, yes. She studied. My grandfather was a doctor, on my mother's side. Yeah. And on my father's side, there were the 3 brothers, the jumeaux, the triplings. And they were the most educated in the city because one was the main head of the post office. That's an honor. And they were all business people, very comfortable, newspaper people. It was a nice family, the Slushins.
Did you always live in that one house? In that one city? Or did you live anywhere else?
No, till I went to Belgium. I always lived over there. The house was taken away by the government because they stripped us from everything.
When was this?
When the Germans left and the Polacks came in, so right away they went to our house and they say it's impossible a Jew should have so much wealth. And they took away from us everything. My mother showed them receipts where my father bought it because my father used to travel. So you will buy in Russia and you buy in Germany and in France, wherever he was. He would buy something, furniture or if my own bed he took out from a window in Paris, you know. So they took us from all the 15 or more rooms we lived, all the furniture was taken away. We moved in the 2.5 room where used to be my music room, the piano and everything.
What year was this?
Pardon?
When did this happen?
Maybe it was in 1917 or 18, or 18 when the revolution, the Russians came into Poland. I really cannot tell you exactly, but it was.
When you were a small child?
Oh yes, Yeah. I was maybe 4 or something like that, or 5.
Were you aware of any anti-Semitism growing up in Serbian?
Personally, I never. And my brothers also didn't know. But we saw a lot of things. We knew it was a lot of pogroms in Shedlets.
Could you tell me what you saw?
I saw opposite our building was another building, and on the ground floor was Jewish people were living over there. It was a lot of Jewish people. But he had a beard, so I knew they Jewish. And the lady was very tall, and she was hiding under the window. And the Halerchikis, the Halas army, stopped once in Shedlets, and they went down to amuse themselves. So the entertainment was to kill the Jews. So they took her, one kept her by the arms, and the other one kept her by the legs, and they went like that. And the hallway from the door to go into the court was very narrow, so they knocked her from one wall to the other. And then I saw the men who had a grocery around this street. The Halerchikis, they cut his beard with the razor, yeah, with the flesh, you know. And they did so much. And then a man was walking. I remember like now, I looked through the window. A man was walking, a tall man with a white beard, and I knew who he is. He was the Christian butcher. And they ran to him, such a nice beard, and they light a match. And the beard should burn. So when he started to scream, "Oh, Jesus Maria," or Jesus, he was calling. So they saw it, they made a boo-boo, and they ran back to the station. And this used to be repeated very often. Very often.
What did your family do when this was happening?
We closed the shades, the shadows, because the shadows from the window were the outside. We closed it, and locked the doors. And my older brother once, in a situation like he was not home, regardless, we locked the door. So the Poznančikas were running to him and asking where Jews live.
That was the name of the army? Poznančikas?
Yeah, the Poznan. They were Halerchikis, Halas army, and they were from Poznan. Poznan was between German and Poland. Poznan. Pogroms were constantly in Poland. But I don't know, I never had any harm done to me or to my family about the Polacks or the people or the something like that. Because all my friends were Christian friends. And the same thing with my brothers. They used to play soccer. The best soccer people in the world. Matter of fact, I knew how to play soccer too, and I was teaching my grandchildren here. Yeah.
Could you describe for me what typical Passover Seder was like growing up in Sedlice?
This I cannot remember. I remember like, oh yes, I do remember, because my father was sitting in a big chair with pillars. That must have been a Seder. He was sitting with pillars, yeah. And also was many of the Jewish soldiers by the table, because we had a very big dining room, very big table. And yes, it was very, very nice. Singing, yes, I do remember.
Do you remember any of the foods or the table decorations?
I only remember Jello. Poland did not have Jello, you know. And during my father was traveling wherever he went, he always looked for something Poland doesn't have. So he brought home Jello, and the cook cooked for us the Jello, but she made it in a big platter and cut up little tiny squares. You know, that was this I remember, others I don't
Remember
remember.
what color?
It was red. Yeah.
And you lived there until you were 20?
I lived in, yes, till I went to Belgium. Really, I didn't go to Belgium first. I was supposed to go to France, to my brother, to Paris. But the French consular did not give me the visa because he was still a student. So my cousin says to me, you go to Belgium, and from Belgium you will go into Paris. And it was like that. So I went to Belgium and I stayed with some relatives of my father's. And I went to Paris and I didn't like Paris.
How old were you then?
In Paris,
Yes.
I was maybe about 2-3 months. I want to make sure I don't like.
Really? How old were you at the time?
All the time, maybe I was 20 or 21 maybe.
So this was in 1933?
No, 1933 I was married already, so this was before. So it was maybe 1932 or 31, something like that.
Prior to this, as a child growing up in Selvicha, were you aware of the anti-Semitism?
Yes,
you
was.
described the pogroms.
Yes, it was a lot. And also was I used to see, first of all, they had 3 Jewish public schools and 1 Christian public school. So it looks like they separate. The Christian children did not go to the same school.
And yet you said you had Christian friends.
And I had Christian friends. To see every Christian had his Jew. He said, my Jew is a good Jew.
Your name was Manya?
Maya. And Slushny is not a Jewish name. Slushny is in the vocabulary.
What does it mean?
Slushny means, you could say, poslushny, very obedient. And slushny, you have right. When you tell me a story, I said, Pani ma słuszność, słuszny, you know. So means right. And slushny is a lot in the conversation of Polish conversation. It's in the vocabulary.
Do you recall your parents discussing anti-Semitism or any attempts to make it?
No. I only know my father was a Zionist. He used to support the Zionist organization, to form the Zionist organization at the time. He used to help out monetarily with to Dr. Herzl. And he bought land in Israel. A lot of land. I found that only a few years ago. So I required with the Karen Kayemet. And they looked up in all the archives of the hypothecs, and they didn't find any registration. But they said could be, and my father bought it from the Arabs, and they had this. They destroyed all the registrations. So it's nothing to look. I was only praying. I said the Hotel Hilton should stay on my land. And that's the reason my brother learned to be an engineer agriculture.
Do you recall any fond memories from childhood vacation times?
Oh yes, we used to go to Morozes. That was a beautiful place, a beautiful villa. I don't know if the villa belonged to my father. I cannot tell. I don't know, because I know my father had a lot of properties all over. You know. So, but it was very very nice. And then that's from Schedlitz is about 25 minutes. Is near. Where is your father-in-law? You told me I forgot the name. That's near there. I remind myself. But it was very nice. And then we had always vacation home because we had a very huge garden with a gardener, and we had all the luxury a child could get of sports and of everything.
Did your family go every summer to this one place?
Yes, every summer.
Keep the name of it,
Moroses,
please? Morosis?
yeah.
Did you go swimming there?
Yeah, it was a lake. There was no swimming pools in the time people made. It was a lake, you know. And then when my mother died, naturally, so I used to go to my uncle, Dr. Laufman, to Wengrove.
You lived with him?
And no, I didn't live, but I went on vacation over there, but they kept me for a long time, you know.
How old were you when you did that?
Oh, about 10 or 11, something like that, or 9. Because my mother died right after my father, maybe 2 years after.
So then who took care of you?
We took care of ourselves, but a cousin of mine was in the city. She had a business in the city, so she used to have an eye on us. You know, and she used to send in a maid and to clean and to wash laundry and everything.
But your brothers were older. You were about 10 years old?
Yes, my brothers were older than I am, but we were still going to school.
And the governess in the house?
And the governess was staying with us for a while, and then she got sick. So she went to her family, you know, because she didn't want any money from my mother. She just wanted to take care of me.
Thank you very much.
In 95, we're interviewing Maria Shrebnik. The interviewer is Leslie Foss. We're in New City, New York, USA, and the language is English.
Mrs. Shrebnik, we were talking about your mother having passed away when you were a young child.
Yes.
Could you tell me what happened next?
We were left alone. Naturally, people suggest to put us in an orphanage. But my cousin says no, she will take care. So she said, Slushnish children don't go in an orphanage. And so I went to Wengrove, W-E-G-O-W, Wengrove, to my uncle, that's my grandfather's father, brother, excuse me, and he was also a doctor, Laser Laufman. He had a big house over there and a very wealthy man, so I was over there. And that's just the beginning to be over there. That was the summer, so I spent the whole summer over there. I was very happy, they were very nice to me. And then I went back to Schedlce to be with my brothers. And finally, I decided I will go to Paris, to France, to my brother.
When you were 11 years old?
No, that was passed by already. I was already 19, because I'm skipping a little bit, the time, And I went to France, and they didn't give me a visa, the consulate. So I remained in Belgium. I went to Belgium. And in Belgium I stayed for a while, and I went to Paris, and I was in Paris for 3 months with my brother, and I didn't like Paris because it was too fast. Coming from Schedlce to Paris, too fast and too filthy. So I stayed only for 3 months over there, just to give myself a chance. My brother begged me. And I went back to Belgium because Belgium is a quiet country, very clean country. And then he was my cousin I married. Laser Srebnik. He came to Belgium in 1931. In 1932 I married him. And we went through hard and up and down because he was a student in the time. It was not good for Belgium. It was a crisis, financially crisis in Belgium. And then my son was born in 1934. And we used to go on vacation, and I met people in Genval. We like Genval because it was a country of grapes. They have hot houses over there. The best grapes comes from Genval, Belgium. And then the war broke out. And this
Could you spell John Ball, please?
Genval, Genale, Genval. That's 35 minutes by train from Brussels. Brussels is the capital of Belgium. And we lived in Brussels. We were very happy over there. And there was no question of Jews or not Jews. It was not anti-Semitism in Belgium at all. Regardless, you had 2 languages to speak, 3 by Wallon also. But then when the king, I will say he died, but he was killed. King Albert was killed, and then his son Leopold took over the country, and I believed he will go in his father's stepfoot. And then was already Hitler Kampf books out, and was starting to move around, people talking about the war. So I said, Belgium is neutral, nobody will come to Belgium, and then we have a king, he will protect us. I was very wrong. The first day when Hitler stepped in Belgium, he was invited to the palace to have dinner with the king. So we saw right away I'd be in trouble. So my husband tried to go and to volunteer to the Belgian army. Yeah. But they didn't want to accept them. They thought they were spies, German spies. My husband organized several friends that they should volunteer, and some of them didn't speak so good French, so they spoke Yiddish. So they thought they were German spies, and they were arrested. Some of them want to kill him right away. Enfin, this passed, and then when he came back home, and he said to me, we must run away from here. And I was sick. I had pneumonia, and I couldn't go to run in the woods to go to. Everybody was running to Switzerland, you know. So I said, maybe here will be quiet, and it was quiet when the Germans came in. They let everybody to open the stores, and they were buying, and everything was quiet. It was no question Jews or not Jews. So I said to myself, they're not so bad. But after the time, we had letters received from them, we should go and register to the Gemeinde, to the Jewish Gemeinde. They selected several doctors, Jewish doctors, business people, and they made an organization. They said, in case we will need some help, they will help us.
Could you identify the Gemeinde? What that is?
The Gemeinde is an organization to help only for Jews, you know. So I said to my husband, I'm not going to register, because that way they will know where I live. They will have the papers. I didn't go to register. Other people went. All the people in Brussels, they went to register. Now, when the Germans want volunteers for work, they call them volunteers. So they went to the Gemeinde and they told them, we need about 2,000 volunteers. You see, the Germans themselves, they were not the killers. You only put the police at the Jews should be the police and watch the other Jew. So the Gemeinde presented the 2,000 young people. So they thought that they gone to work, and they took along all kind of workman equipment and everything. But after this, the parents received, they threw out from the wagons when they were traveling, from the trains, they threw out cards to warn the parents not to believe what the Germans say and to run away from home. We're not going to work.
How did they know that?
I guess, between people they talk, they find out, or they listen to the Germans, they talking, how those go espionage. It's the same thing. So that's the time they start to run already. So we had a neighbor on the first floor, we were living on the second floor. The neighbor on the first floor was the guardian, the policeman on the second floor. And the second floor goes, the neighbor goes. Otherwise, they will go in concentration camp. So one day, a friend of ours, I was just baking, I had a lot of eggs to preserve for the winter, and I was just baking a sponge cake. And I had a lot of eggs on the table and everything. And a friend of my husband's came up and he said, it's not healthy to stay home tonight. So my husband said, Manu, we must go. So I left the beaten eggs, everything on the table. And I put on my son several changeable clothes underneath and myself, and we were going out. We're going out. So the neighbor comes out and says, where are you going? I said, he wants ice cream. So couldn't you go yourself? I said, no, I want him to take a walk and to choose the flavor. After 2 hours, my husband comes out from the door. She says, where are you going? He said, I'm worried. My wife is not back. I'm going to see. We will go with you. So my husband took the people with him to Genval, because I was already in Genval, because when I went out of the house, I went straight to the station and took the train. And so they said they will not let my husband go by himself, because they were afraid the Germans will take them concentration camp. So those people survived in Genval. And my husband did not survive. So and then our friends, the brother-in-law of the Dupont people, my friends, he was a truck driver for the Germans, not volunteer, but they took him by force. And he was carrying, what he wants to see what is in the truck is carrying every day. So the German was with him sitting in the truck. He said, I want a beer, and he went to have a beer. And he warned them, he said, I will stay by the window, and don't you dare look what's in the trunk in the back. So the German, I guess he forgot himself, and he had several beers, and he turned his back to the window. So the man looked in, what's over there. When the man looked in, he got paralyzed or a heart attack, something like that, because he saw children, little babies, from the bottom of the truck to the ceiling, dead, because the Germans pulled out all the blood they had, and they didn't use a bullet because it was too expensive for them. They threw them in a special wall they built, an iron steel wall, and throw them in the wall, so the babies were all dead. And they took him to burn somewhere or something. So the man, every time I went with my son to visit him, the man was screaming like that. They didn't know why. So the sister says to him, you like Charlie? Or make the story short, he wants Charles to be hidden, not in general, to send them away. So that way, my friend asked her aunt, she was a baroness and a mother superior of the convent in Namur, and I gave him my son over there. That's the first time I gave him away. I brought him over there, and he walked away with 2 nuns, and he didn't turn around to me.
How old was he?
He was by 5 or 4.5, something like that. And I never told him why I'm doing it, till today. I cannot forgive me, because one way is I didn't want to explain to him. The child should know. He didn't know anything.
He didn't know he was Jewish?
No, he didn't know he was Jewish.
Do you remember what year this was about?
Pardon?
What year was this approximately?
Oh, that was also in the beginning, maybe 41, something like that. I never read papers. I never looked on, because 1 year was so long, and so many things happen every day, you know. So I couldn't forgive myself. I gave away the baby. He was never away from me. And I didn't want him to, because if I would tell him, because you're Jewish, you know, a child, also in the convent, the Gestapo used to come to visit constantly, make believe to watch the paintings, the religion paintings. You know, a child like that, and is angry. My mommy sent me away. I don't have my parents because I'm Jewish. So you will go and kick him maybe and say, I'm Jewish. You never know what to expect from a child like that. But when things happen, I found out later things happen, you know.
Like
So,
what?
like a little Jacques, he was a little boy which I brought him in the convent, you know. And he was from very religious parents, you know. And the parents told him he's Jewish, and that's the reason he must stay in the convent. So one day the Gestapo was walking around. He ran over to them and kicked them in the butt, and he said, "Méchant, moi je suis juif. You bad, I'm a Jew." So the nun came over to him, and he didn't speak. He was maybe 2.5, 3, something like that. He just started to speak. So the nun ran over to him, and she says, "Mais Jacques, qu'est-ce que ça se passe? What's the matter?" And she explained to him, he's not so old, you know. So they didn't understand what he said. Do you know this Jacques became a priest? But I'm still looking for him, because someone, when I was sick, I'm going one story to the other. I had a help in the hospital. She told me he's a Belgian priest. And I asked her to ask him what's his name and everything. But it's not him, it's
What
somebody
happened
else.
to your son? He stayed in the convent?
He stayed in the convent, yes, and the nun told me, the eldest nun, Sœur Marie, told me she finds him every day in the church, fainted on the floor. I don't know why. Maybe he was not used to sit on his knees, you know. Otherwise, the nuns were very good, very lovely. First of all, they didn't know my son is Jewish. He had a different name. I had a different name. His name was Charles Bonbonne. My name was Madame Lefebvre, Marie-Louise Lefebvre, and I didn't have any children. I'm single.
So that was your false identity.
Yeah, yes.
Did your son see you again after you dropped him off at the convent?
Yes, after 2 weeks they told me to come. So I went to visit him. He didn't say anything. Why did you leave me here? And when his father was arrested, he was in the corner of the convent, in the couloir, every Sunday he would stay in the corner and wait for his father till the visits are over. And the sister superior used to go over to him, "Charles, va jouer, go play. Your papa is not coming today." "Oh yes, he will come." Every Sunday was the same. And he never spoke to me about his father all his life. Till now he started to talk. And that's the reason he had headaches. Severe headaches could take like for weeks. He couldn't open his eyes. You know? And then that's my husband was arrested from by the vicar, by the priest, the high priest. He was arrested.
The high priest arrested your husband?
No, he was by the high priest, and someone told the Germans that the priest is harboring a Jew. So the Gestapo came and arrested him.
What happened to your husband?
And they sent him to Malines. Malines, that's in Belgium. They had a camp in Belgium, Malines. That's in between Brussels and Antwerp. And when they had 2,000 Jews, they sent them to Auschwitz. They put them in a horse car, you know, like for 6 horses or 8 horses, a compartment, and they packed in 2,000 people.
Into one car?
And one car, yes. And so nailed down, no air should come in or out. And they put in a certain product, a white powder or something. When they arrived in Auschwitz, they were all dead. And you know, and before that, they sent my husband, he was twice in the train, but before that, a lot of people jumped from the train. A lot of them are alive. My husband was not lucky. He was arrested the same night from them and brought back to Malines. And when they brought him back to Malines, they degrade so the Jews. If Caesar didn't do it. So they put on a sack. Here in America, you buy a potatoes in a paper sack, you know, and in Europe is from material, a sack, and put on his head, and no cut out for the eyes to know where you walk or nothing, and you were walking like that in the court for 10-15 minutes. Then they gave them all of them to go out for air, you know. But before that, I went to Brussels, and I was nearly arrested. I wouldn't sit here and tell the story. I wouldn't be brave, fight for my life. It was my son's birthday, and I want to go to Brussels because some Christian friends of ours had money, our money, and had our clothes, you know, winter clothes and thing. So I went, it was October, and I went and I took out some clothes for my son, and I took some money from them, a couple thousand francs, and I bought all kind of things which you cannot buy it in the grocery. You must give tickets. You must buy in the market. But I bought in the groceries because I had tickets for it. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, I will go up to my Christian friends, which the little boy went to school in the kindergarten with mine, and I will ask him what goes on, because I knew they in the underground, and their position was, their job was to feed the English flyers when they come down the parachutes, and to send them back. So I want to see what goes on. So I rang the bell and I ran up. I rang 2 bells because the sister lived on the 2nd floor and she lived on the 1st floor. So I ran up, and downstairs was a shoe store, and the lady saw me running up because 2 Germans were sitting, so I thought maybe they're buying shoes, you know. And the lady fainted when she saw me go up. I found out later. When I came up to the house, to the apartment, the door opened for me. And who opened the door? A Gestapo. And was 3 uniform Gestapo, 2 uniform Gestapo, and was 1 civilian Gestapo. This Gestapo man, the civilian one, I'm sure, because he spoke beautiful French, and he was very smart, he must have been in the 5th column spying during peace in Belgium. And then was 3 Gestapo people, which they were collaborating with the Germans, the black shirts. I forgot their name, the Führer's name, their Führer's name, the Belgian name. And I'm not born in Belgium, right? I should have an accent. But any language I speak, I try to speak without an accent. Okay. So when they opened the door and I saw them, very calmly, and I smiled. I think I have the wrong door. They say, no, madame, rentrez, come in. You're in the right apartment, because I rang the bell. So I knew where I'm going. And I was the kitchen, and then on the table was a lot of white bread baked, because the people did not buy the bread in the boulangerie, because you need tickets. So the farmers used to donate the flour, and they used to bake it and give to the flyers, the English parachutes. To make the story short, they looked me over, they want to see if I have something. So I said that they should not tickle me. I'm very ticklish. And I must make something, conversation, to show them I'm not afraid of them. But inside, my tongue, I'm sure, was so thick. And I felt pins in my face. So I took the handkerchief, make believe I have a cold. So that way I could pinch myself to get color in my face.
So
Yeah, and they ask me all kind of questions. And you know, and when you think to tell them the question, you're guilty. I answered them 1, 2, 3. So, and then I gave them a big speech. I said, you people always like to fight. Let's live in peace. I gave them a big speech. I said, because they found the children's clothes and my son's clothes, winter clothes. And I don't have any children. I'm not married. You see? So I said I went to neighbors to ask them for children's clothes, because the lady here met me. I don't know her name. Could you imagine to put on a story like that for the German Gestapo? I don't know her name, and she tell me, Ribronier 91, which bell I will ring will be good, because I remembered I rang 2 bells. And I said, if people will not be good to each other, will always be wars.
what was the German Gestapo's reaction to you?
They listened to me. They listened very quietly. They listened. And I spoke low and high. They should get sentiment in it, you see. And then they asked me
Were they armed with guns?
I didn't see the guns. Maybe I'm sure they wouldn't go without the guns. they had plenty. And also, I didn't speak a Belgian French. I make believe I'm speaking a Parisian French. A Parisian French, you is like a song, you know, because I had the 3 Belgium, they're Flemmer, you know.
You spoke Flemish as well?
I didn't like the language, but if necessary, I spoke the language. I understood well, you know. So and then they found money. They found a sandwich. That's the reason I'm flying to England. They're going to send me to England. You see?
Well, what happened? You pleaded with the Nazis that they should be more peaceful.
More peaceful, more human.
And they examined you to see what you were carrying with you.
Yeah, this is something else. They examined everything that I have. So on to the other one, when they were speaking German, I didn't look at it.
So
I make believe to fix myself.
So what happened?
Because
after-
they watch your eyes if you understand. Because every Jew understands German.
And you pretended you didn't?
No, I didn't look. They couldn't see my eyes if I understand also. So the older man says to the officer, he said, she's going to North England. So he says to me, the officer comes over to me, he says, how come you have so much money and a sandwich and everything? First I said, the sandwiches, I brought it from home. because if you go in a restaurant, you need tickets, coupons. I said, and in case I have to, in the morning, in case I have to stay overnight, all the hotels are taken from your government. And then I said, I could go back to home and find my home is burned. When I always go away from the house, I take everything with me, what's of value.
So they believed you?
Yes, I spoke very fast, and as soon as they ask you the question, you must answer right away. Don't think. So they know you're thinking, and you're guilty of something. So, and then they told me I had a bag, a leather bag, a big leather bag, and I had butter, and I had sugar, and I had meat and everything. And those things you must be registered by the grocery. When you give in the coupons, the grocery gets the supply. So he says to me, where did you buy all those things? You must be registered as a grocery, and you live somewhere else. You have it in Brussels. So I stopped for a second and I said to them, I cannot lie, because lying is a deadly sin. C'est un péché mortel. I make myself a good Catholic. I said, I bought it on the black market. Black market is here, and he runs away in another corner. You can, you know, he got so he thought he got me, but he didn't get me. He got so angry he went into the kitchen, the civilian Gestapo. So
interviewing Maria Shrebnik. The interviewer is Leslie Foss. We're in New City, New York, USA, and the language is English.
do you have other languages, please?
Could you please tell me more about your experience with the Gestapo who were waiting in your apartment? What happened next?
They were not in my apartment. They were my friend. So I watched the clock, because they told me to put everything out on the floor, and they want to see what I care. And so naturally they were disappointed. I told them about the black market. And I saw I have only 5 minutes to leave. And I must get rid of them. One way or the other, let them arrest me or let me go. So I started to scream at them. I said, I must go home because there's no hotels for civilian people. Your government have all the hotels. I said, and I start to pack. I want to see where I'm standing. So they were all in the kitchen, and I heard them talking German between them, and they said, the old man, the old Gestapo said to hold me. His understanding is to hold me. And the officer says, the tall officer says, you see how calm she is, she's pleasant, and you know the Belgian people are afraid of us. She's innocent. She could go home. So meanwhile, I was packing, and on the table was my sandwich and my money, and my card d'identité, the card, you know, like a passport card. Identification, better said. And so the officer took the identification, and he says to me, but how could we believe you live on this address? So I said, you could send a soldier with me, and you will see I'm not lying. And I pulled out my card, my identification card from his hand. That's chutzpah. I said, you foreigners don't know how to spell our names. And I gave him the alphabet in French. I didn't want he should hold my card too long, because he will see it's a homemade piece. So he says to me, so he went in the kitchen And he came back, and I got dressed, my hat and everything, and he brought me in a white bread. And he says, Madame, ça c'est pour votre dérangement, for your derangement, for your troubles. He said, you don't need to buy on black market. So I thanked him very much, and I said goodbye to everybody very slow. I had a minute to leave, but I stretched it out to show I'm not running. And I started to go down from the stairs, but I didn't hear the door close. They were watching me. I didn't run from the stairs. I went down slowly. When I came down in the street, I put down my bag, and I made believe I'm fixing my boots. But I could see what goes on the first floor. They were in the window. And across the street were cars, Gestapo cars. To see if I would run, he will motion to them to take me. You know? And at the same time, the man I used to buy all the years vegetables, he came from the market, and he saw me. And he looked, and I didn't know, is he for the Germans or not, against the Germans. But I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I walked away very slowly. And I went to the corner, I took the streetcar. And I went to the station. This was the station, the train was supposed to go back to Genval 3 o'clock. And this was already 6 o'clock. Was still, because the Germans took away the locomotive, the machine, you know,
Were Jews allowed to take the trolley car? The streetcar?
They didn't know who I am.
But was it?
I didn't have a...
So is that a trolley car for all the...
For everybody, yeah. The Belgian people could go late. Only the Jews could only go out till 4 o'clock. Otherwise it's concentration camp and they catch you. And then the Germans themselves, they told me I don't look Jewish, so I took a chance. And this was already 6 o'clock. But when I went in the train, I threw away my hat. I turned my coat on the other side because it was a double coat for traveling. One side was beige and one side was brown. They remember me brown.